he just said, you know what? We need a guy like you to run our Georgia sales agency. And I said, what would that mean? And he says, well, you'd have to give up your agency and walk into Craig's.
Wow.
And that was the hardest decision for a business owner to do, is say, I'm going to give up that which I built.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Ask the Experts. We are so excited to be here with you today. And my name is Andy. We're going to be running through about an hour with you guys. And today we have absolute insurance dynamo, Ryan Chao. Ryan entered the industry in 2015. We're going to talk about this, but remounted from a tough first agency launch, sharpened his skills at Craig Wiggins, which a lot of you are familiar with. And just about 18 months later, opened a second agency that's exploded to nearly 30 million in premium in 5.5 years. When he's not clocking double-digit miles for fun, meaning pounding the pavement, we were just talking about that, throwing on the running shoes and hitting the road. He runs 3 side businesses dedicated to helping agencies grow. And you guys can get your questions ready and drop them live if you're here live with us. And we can go through Ryan's blueprint today in turning setbacks into rocket-fueled success. And it all starts right now. So Ryan, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Doing well, Andy. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Honored to have you and very grateful for your time. It's amazing to see all of your success over the years. And there's usually not a week that goes by that I don't hear your name somewhere. So your ears must be ringing a lot. But one of the things we like to do on the show is kind of go back to the origin story, right? Because we could talk about current day success, and we're going to get into all that and strategy and tactics and culture and a lot of amazing components. But what originally drew you to the insurance industry back in 2015?
The opportunity to make money. That was certainly the dream. Going back to ownership of something was I think the motivation. And the secondary motivation would be to be able to earn money. The third would be able to create residuals. Anytime you can create a residual, some kind of reoccurring income that pays, obviously in dividends, you want to focus on that. And that's the biggest secret that I discovered in 2015 of what am I doing? I was in a business where we went from contract to contract to contract to contract, had to hustle, close it, went out, and we had to hunt again. And there was no residuals coming in. So changed that game plan. In 2015, I had just come out of basically going broke, making extremely poor investments, being impulsive in investing, and learned a very pricey lesson. And from there, I knew that I never wanted to be as impulsive again and control that. And I knew I wanted to find stability in something where if I built it and things slowed down and recession proof, that insurance industry would be the best opportunity for me.
Wow, incredible. And in reading some of your past, it looks like the initial agency didn't really go as planned. First and foremost, like what happened? Not to make you relive it, but we'd kind of like to hear when the wheels started to fall off and what that looked like, and also just some of the biggest takeaways that even live within the way you operate today that you were able to take away from that setback.
So most business owners have a lot of self-belief, and that's good. I think Franklin Delano Roosevelt stated that you should never underestimate those that overestimate themselves. And that is true, because those that can visualize and see and understand and kind of paint their success internally, they can find that success. And you certainly can, but I will tell you this: if you overestimate yourself and you don't provide the tools and the know-how and understanding to be able to hit that goal, then you're going to have to fail forward a lot. And that's what I did. Came straight in, didn't understand what a 25-minute sales cycle was, had no idea. what a one call close was. I never even heard of it. I had come from an industry where you cultivated relationships for over a year and a half to land one big contract. So the sense of urgency wasn't there. And then understanding how to hire the right mindset. And in that hiring, I didn't understand how to hire or identify a growth mindset. I didn't have a clue. I thought everybody was like me. If they speak like me, if they were energetic like me, then they can probably sell and do well, just like me. But that's not the case. Quickly learned that people have to be vetted and they're going to put their best foot forward. And if you can't elicit that negativity in a interview, and if you can't have friction, or if you avoid friction in that interview, then you are bringing in the wolf in sheep's clothing most of the time. And that's what I did. I brought them all in. I had bigger aspirations. I wanted it more than they did. And basically, because I did not understand how to manage people, I failed. According to my terms, I failed. I'm going to draw a six-figure income in anything I do in my mind. And I was drawing a very low income on that one. So I had to step out. I know I had a realization. I will tell you this. I'm a faith-based guy. So I was in prayer. And oftentimes when you have to make a move, God's not putting the easiest path forward. You have to have a crossroad and choose. And it was crazy when we were in prayers around Christmas about what to do. Joseph Puckett responded to one of my inquiries with Craig Wiggins coaching. And he hits me up at like 6 p.m. at night. And I was in a moment of despair. We hadn't written anything in like 3 days, spending all my money on marketing. And anyway, we hit it off. And he just said, you know what? We need a guy like you to run our Georgia sales agency. And I said, what would that mean? And he says, well, you'd have to give up your agency and walk into Craig's.
Wow.
And that was the hardest decision for a business owner to do, is say, I'm going to give up that which I built, and the fact that I am my own boss and I tell myself what to do. And that was my aha moment. I was like, all right, this is God speaking, and that therefore I'm going to do it. And within like 4 or 5 days, I had left 2 people to shut down my agency and walked into Craig's. And that's hard, because I had, well over 6 figures invested in that agency. And it was a moment that I didn't question. I walked faithfully into it. And then that right there, that act of submission and acquiescing and not being an ego-driven individual, yes, I'm accused of it, but being as humble as you have to be and letting go of your will, eventually that's where success comes from, is having that faith in those really defining crossroads. And I chose the right one, and learned what I needed to learn about leadership, about scaling, about managing people. Joseph and Craig taught me a lot. And at that point, 18 months later, I said, okay, I have the confidence, I had the know-how. I do have the self-belief now, but I now have the tools and the ability to bring the right people on and hold them accountable, because I saw it. I had great mentors. And then I implemented that in my agency, and I only humbly wanted to hit 100,000 in written premium a month. And we did it every month. And then grew the business. We bought 720 grand. That was it. And grew it in less than 5 years. We were 17 million organically. And then we bought 11 million. So, and we've grown. We're right under 30 million right now. I think this month we'll be at 30 mil.
Incredible. And I love that you invited, God into the conversation of business, and like, for anybody listening, you can look at this journey, right, of like entering the space, being thrown off, saying a prayer, getting a phone call, totally shifting, kind of dropping the ego, learning what it took to succeed there, going back out, finding that success. That's a long road. But the one thing that you said there was like, I didn't question it. And I was an answer to my prayers. And I think that's so important for people to understand that, like, had that never happened, right, you might be nowhere near where you are at today, connect with the people you have today, et cetera. So that faith piece of the journey, I absolutely love. And, you know, kind of going back to when you entered the Craig Wiggins space, right, and you're coming into this agency, how did joining the Craig Wiggins organization reshape like your overall mindset and skills? What was done during that time as like your boot camp to restructure everything?
Yeah. So when you're thinking and visualizing internally, but you don't have context to create that visualization, you haven't witnessed it, you haven't seen it, it's hard to visualize. You can visualize success, the end point, but the journey you can't visualize. You don't understand it because you have not seen it and you can't replicate it. You have to do that. Anybody that is struggling in an agency, anybody that's struggling to scale, struggling to grow, you can either go the path of least resistance, which is just to do what you do now, or just take the load onto yourself. Forget people. You'll just do it. So now you are an employee in your business. So the business, you know, you don't own the business owns you. You're going to be working for the business instead of working on the business. And that's what basically, you know, jumping into Craig Wiggins' agency did. It showed me, Ryan, this is how you work on the business. This is how you create success and visualize it. And then you create a plan around that. You bring the tools in. You make a plan to hire the right people, which is friction up front.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're bringing them in and understanding their mindset, giving them the tools to support them, holding them accountable is what I learned. And then from there, making sure that they have that growth mindset. And when all of that's implemented, invest in an incredible marketing plan, which consists of several strategies, and then understanding that marketing plan and how it's performing for you and monitoring it and holding it accountable. From there, once you start repeating success, then you're able to scale. Then you're able to grow exponentially. For every person, the right person you bring on, you invest more in the marketing and they write more from that marketing. And then you're able to reinvest that and then continue to grow. And I think now we're up to 8 sales agents and a sales manager. And we're up to 8 service individuals and an operations manager. And then we have 5 internal telemarketers. And obviously through data analytics, we buy good data and we're able to write consistently. Now we'll be writing 450 on the low side to about 600 items a month. And honestly, that's the sweet spot for us. That's where profitability lies, meaning cash flow. So I learned cash flow very easily with Craig and understood how it works and how to try to cash flow on new business revenue, which is extremely hard to do. And but that tool and understanding my numbers and understanding what generated enough revenue in order to profitably grow. That is like an oxymoron. Profitable growth. Profitable scale is good, but growth is always investing, grinding, not taking money out of the business, reinvesting it and retaining those earnings and over again. And I learned that from Craig and Joseph how to profitably grow. And then I created a plan around that. And then I just held it accountable. I went to the Excel sheet every day and every week and every month to make sure what I was investing in, which is my people and my marketing plan, and even the tools that I was investing in to hold them accountable and making sure that everything was working right. And
wow,
seriously, that's the formula. Everybody's like, well, what's the formula for success? It's the process and then accountability that comes behind it.
Man, you said something that I wrote down. You said in your hiring process, hiring the right people with growth mindset. But then you said friction up front. And it reminded me of, I work for a very, very large training organization that trains people across the whole world. And the sales director said, Andy, remember this, what's hard up front will be easy on the back end. What's easy on the front end is going to be hard on the back end. And I think it's true for hiring. I think it's true for clients and deals, and it's like at some point you got to face the beast down and you got to tackle it. And you're saying friction up front, to create an easy growth pattern behind, because you've got the right people on your team that I love. And then you also said, cash flow and reinvesting into the business as you're building this mechanism of the right people with the right marketing, and you just continue to play that scale up and up. Being aware of your cash and reinvesting it. John Pavley was on, I think, a week or two ago with us, and he said, I'm not interested in the 401k. Like, I look at the business as my retirement portfolio. It is an investment. And the more I pour into this thing, the more it's going to grow. And I keep hearing this from successful agencies. So it's really good to hear. And here's a part that not a lot of people talk about, scaling to nearly $30 million. What nearly broke as your volume surged, and how did you fix it?
What nearly broke as I was trying to scale, or where my stressful points was, or?
Yeah, like I'm sure that like that pathway, you could see the growth, but anytime that you go into scale, bigger opportunities, bigger problems. And what I'm curious about is, even in that huge growth spurt, I'm sure there were still challenges. It's not like, like everything's perfect now. So I'm curious, like, as you got into that new pace of like, holy mackerel, like we are hiring, growing, writing more policies than ever before. Like, what were the curveballs that were thrown at you when you first went through that big surge and experienced that level of growth for like the first time in your career?
I'll tell you this, man. When you're scaling, your insecurities, your inabilities to lead you as a leader, you're just, everything's exponential. It's if you're bad at something and you're scaling and you have not delegated to somebody, your failure, your weaknesses are just right out there front on stage, and there's a big spotlight on them. So I had an issue with delegation, and I had an issue with my own personal insecurities. And what's funny is I'm a relationship leader. People don't think so sometimes, but behind the scenes, man, I am a softie. I want everybody to be happy, and I want to please everyone. And when you do that and you try to scale, oh gosh, you create a culture. If you bring in takers and you're a relationship leader, you want everybody to be happy, you're a pleaser, and you bring in a taker, that individual, when you bring a team in of takers, then that team will run your business. That team will run your business, and you will allow it because it's easier and there's no friction. That is the biggest lesson I had to learn about myself. And it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix because it's a part of that journey of being more self-actualized. And that's not an easy process. No one's self-actualized by the end of this life, but they're on a journey to find out who they are. And in that scaling process, you find out who you aren't very quickly, very quickly. And I found out how insecure I was. I found out how easily emotionally manipulated I could be. And I realized that it's because I avoided confrontation and I avoided friction. And there was no process for me to follow to basically rectify that. There really wasn't. So I brought in some people that were extremely confrontational, and I let them, and I avoided the confrontation. So it actually became a culture in scaling. It became a culture in a business I did not like to show up to. I didn't like to come in. Wow. I didn't like to be a part of it. I created a culture that I just said, if they hit numbers, I don't care. And that became, that didn't exclude ethics, values, and how we write business. But if they were going to be toxic, but they wrote numbers, I just said, okay, I'll just let that be. And you know what I ended up doing? I ended up just really trying to placate everyone, saying she didn't mean that. He didn't mean to say that. No, he didn't mean to take your sale. That's not it. This is, and then everything became so stressful in that scaling process that I kind of shut down. I really did. I got shut down, and I just basically focused on other businesses and let my own insecurities, my own inner dialogue, kind of take a hold of me. And I had to come to that reckoning with myself and realize that I have the power to change this, and I'm going to change this, and I'm going to start meeting friction, meeting confrontation head on, but not meeting confrontation with confrontation. That's not what you do. That's where the leadership aspect comes in, where you start having to learn from others that have mastered leadership. So I said, okay. So I started listening to a couple podcasts, and I started taking notes, and I had to start visualizing the change. And I'm telling you this, when you start visualizing the change in you, you are role playing in your head. Can I tell you something? There was a study, a 12-week study about internal visualization. And this is when I realized that this was going to have to be the process, and this was going to work. There was a study about internal visualization of individuals working out a very specific part of their muscle group. And in that study, when they were guided through internal visualization, they experienced an average over the study group of 13.5% muscle growth in that area. What the heck? The power of your mind and you visualizing internally, you can change the way you process and see the world and the way that you think. You have what? Neuroplasticity, right? You have, yeah, that's what it is. Neuroplasticity. What they found was through internal visualization, you created more neural pathways. And when those neural pathways were coded in myelin, which is a fatty substance, it stayed permanent. And then you had fast neural pathways that you created from when scenarios happened. That's how a pitcher gets faster, and that's how a catcher gets faster at catching, or your fast twitch muscle. All of those is due to neuroplasticity. You can change the way you process and see the world, and therefore you can change how you handle confrontation, and therefore change the leadership style that you have. So I've gone from a relationship-based, reactive, impulsive, emotion-driven individual to less of that. I'm not cured from all of that, but to less of that, meaning that now when confrontation comes, I've already visualized the confrontation in my head, and I've role-played it so many times and reinstilled it that my reaction generates the result that I want, because I meet the friction head on, and I guide that individual through their internal struggle so they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And now I'm telling you, the culture in my agency right now, I want to show up to it. I want to be a part of it every day. I prepare for it. I prepare for my leadership. I write, I script, I put all of that in, because it's a culture now that was created because of my change. And my willingness to put the work in and not blame the world, not blame the individual, I'm no longer a victim of my bad hires, but now I am hiring, I'm meeting confrontation head on. And in that interview process, when you know the culture that you want to create, you start writing your interview questions out. And those are just setup questions to ask the why and start peeling back the layers to find the negative mindset, the victim mindset that you're about to invite into your agency. So you have to meet it up front. You have to have friction up front and bait the individual that you're about to bring in into a confrontational moment that they experience and how do they react to it. And if you hear negativity, if you hear the blame game, if you hear that victim mindset, a fixed mindset, then that is not the individual in a culture where you have a growth mindset and you want individuals to be the best version of themselves. You don't bring in that toxic individual, no matter how many items they can write, no matter how much you are in despair. You never invite that wolf in sheep's clothing, and you don't trick yourself. So you have to hold on to and be committed to friction up front. And that I'm telling you, that perpetual process is just growing and feeding into the right agency culture that we have. And the sky is honest. You can scale a great agency culture. You can scale that. You can. And that's been the massive change. The change in me has been the change in the agency, big time.
Well, and thanks for being vulnerable, because I think there's, not just hundreds, but thousands of not only insurance agency owners, just business owners and entrepreneurs in general who are stuck in that cycle right now that you were stuck in. And just hearing the way that you walk through it is super refreshing. And what was so wild to me as well is yesterday I had a moment where I visualized, and I caught myself visualizing the next 3 minutes of activities. And I was like, well, I got to walk over there and do this. And then I got to go fill that sheet out. And then I got to let the dog out. And it was like, I mapped out the whole thing. And I was like, how much you want to bet you walk exactly through that? And then I was like, how often am I doing that all day, every day, subconsciously? And I'm mapping out my next steps. And I think the day is a big mystery, but I've already predetermined how it's going to go. And I don't even know. So I started ChatGPTing, and it was like, you have on average about 1,400 fully baked visualizations throughout the day that you're not even aware of. And so I started to study this whole thing about visualization last night. So then you bring it up on this call, go figure, about visualization. And I want to take a quick pit stop before we sort of transition back into some of the main content. Is visualization something that you actually intentionally practice? Is it something where you try to re-gear your visualizations? Like when you talk about using visualization before you walk into a confrontation or before you map out a plan, like what does that actually look like in your day-to-day life? And is that something agencies can, learn?
Yeah. When you visualize your goals, obviously, you're creating, it's crazy. You're creating dopamine. Dopamine is the drive to goals. But when you visualize hitting them, you're creating dopamine, which is kind of cementing that visualization in your head. And when I do it, when I know there's two sides of it. When I know I'm going to have to address a confrontational moment, I know now, instead of me being emotional and angry and taking everything personally, I know 99% of people's issues are not against me. They're just their issues, and they're just having a bad way of expressing them, and they're not against me. So your job as a leader, and anything you do when you're visualizing a confrontation, is to understand that it's not against you. This is a person against the person. They're becoming their worst enemy, and you need to guide them through it and help them find a way out of it. And that's it. You are just a guide. And anytime that you go into and you start visualizing confrontation and you make your mind up that that person is against you and that person does not like you, you have this fight or flight thing going on. And if you choose to fight, then you're going in hot at every conversation. And all you're trying to do is preserve what you believe is your dignity and your self-worth and all of that. And so you want to make them feel as little as possible, as if they're as incompetent as they, are. And all you're doing is just meeting a confrontation with an explosive outcome that's always going to plant a bad seed. Even though you find yourself full circle apologizing, it doesn't matter. You've already done the worst possible thing for an outcome are for the situation that never gets you the outcome that you want. So if you find yourself always apologizing and wish something didn't go that way, and if you find yourself blaming that individual, no, you are the common denominator in every interaction in your life. You are the one. You're there, you're present. So if you want to change your life, change yourself, is start visualizing confrontation with a positive outcome, and start visualizing how you can navigate not only yourself and putting your self ego and that self-preservation and what you believe is your self-worth and all of this significance thing that you think comes from others people's opinions of you. You got to put that aside. And as a leader, you have to help them and visualize navigating them through their problems and understanding that it's never you. It's never you. So once I realized that and start visualizing that, understanding it, role playing that, and staying committed to helping them instead of trying to preserve my ego in the conversation, man, I tell you what, it helped create some relationships, some loyalty and bonds that are so strong that even the days that people that work with me, they don't want to wake up and do it for themselves, they'll do it for me. Now that is they used to have to do it in spite of me. Now they do it for me. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, completely.
Different
And I've been in
perspective.
businesses like the old version of Ryan that you're talking about, and I know exactly what drives people in businesses like that. And it's not, it doesn't last. It can't last.
No, friendships didn't last. People obviously, and I still have, reputations that I'm still not trying to, but hoping that people see a different Ryan. But that's coming. Hasn't come 5-10 years ago. It's come recently. That kind of understanding of myself hasn't come, but maybe in the past 2 or 3 years. And I would say in just the past year, I've really started to become so conscious and aware of what I was doing that I've seen exponential growth in my personal life and in my business, in my careers, my businesses. That's grown exponentially as well.
Incredible. Thank you for that. I'm digesting a lot of this, and I know the audience is as well. I want to get into more of the culture and the people side of the business. And here's a scenario. If you hire somebody next week and we sat down with that person 1 week into their job with you, what would you hope they would say in their first week experience at the agency, just about the overall experience, the onboarding, the culture? What should that sound like from a new hire?
This is the best place I've ever had the opportunity to work at. That's the ultimate goal within the first week. Because if they can make their mind up that this is, then they're going to wake up every day with excitement and a feeling of not overwhelming, kind of that overwhelming feeling of like, I got so much to do to get to my goals, but feeling like they have so much momentum created for them with a great support, leadership, and a marketing plan that they don't feel failure at all. They feel like success is just, they just keep putting that one foot in front of the other, and we're helping to create that wave and push them to that success. They have to be able to visualize internally. They have to be able to see the process and be able to understand what the steps they have to take every day to reach their goals. When we present metrics, not in a way to hold them to they're not a stick, essentially.
Okay.
They're always a carrot. And I never use metrics to discipline with or to chastise somebody with. I help them understand their metrics in a way to hit their goals. And if they're not hitting what they want to hit, then I help explain the metrics. Talk time, right? They have a lot of, that tells a story. Outbound calls tells a story, right? Number of quoted households in the insurance industry tells a story. And if you start looking at all the metrics and doing the math, for example, let's say you quote 10 households in a day and you have 45 minutes of talk time. That tells a story, and you help them understand it. So within a week and a half or two, they understand the meaning behind metrics better than they ever have before. And they can self-diagnose. They don't have to come to me like, what am I doing wrong? They can say, oh, Ryan taught me that my average talk time per quote is here. What could I be doing better? So they can self-analyze and understand how to make our focus more on the metrics that matter. And then they can basically visualize it. If I talk more, if I speak more, if I build more of a relationship and more rapport in my conversations, maybe my quote volume will go down, but my close rate should go up because I'm connecting more, right? So the metrics, they understand the metrics very easily. And I built a system that shows it to them right up front. And I think that has been the biggest, besides this is the best place I've ever worked, best environment, best culture. I've never known the game plan or had it written out for me as far as helping me understand how to hit my numbers and how to visualize what I need to do every day to hit my goals. That's what I think. That's not what actually is what I hear from everybody.
Absolutely. And what metrics kind of live on the daily dashboard that everybody's aware of? And then, how do you typically address somebody who's maybe off pace on one of the metrics procedurally?
Well, the metrics we look at, I'm a big fan of talk time. I love conversations, and it's meaningful talk time with a process. You have to have a talk path and very intentional conversations with people. So talk time with intentionality is really good, right? Number of quoted households. You can't sell somebody if you don't quote somebody, right? And that's a big number. And if you have good talk time with quote volume, that's the biggest two that we're always tracking. And outbound calls shows that you're following up on your pipeline, or you're trying to build a pipeline, self-generate a pipeline, meaning, hey, you know what, Ryan, you're bringing a lot to the table. You're bringing the main courses to this meal, which is in marketing. I'm going to bring some side dishes by self-generating, by generating stuff through my own CRM, calling out outbound call, following up on my X dates, following up on my quotes and my requotes, all of that. I'm going to bring the side dishes to the table. Ryan, you're bringing the main course, and this is what I'm going to do to contribute to the meal. That's a big thing. So outbound calls are really big, and they are always associated with self-generated quotes and sold households. CRM management. In Allstate, you use, obviously you use Lead Manager, and now you're using Ricochet a lot. So all those metrics, you have to look and see what they're documenting. Are they making notes? Are they putting in personal notes, intimate notes? So intimate notes, to me, when I can look and see intimate notes associated with every quote, that means if I don't get a hold of these individuals for a week or two, or if I call them on a next date, I get to pick up where I left off, right? And I'll dive into that because honestly, when you know somebody better than they know you, you have, like, for me, it's like blackmailing them. Like, I know something about you, and you don't know about me. Have you ever had that person, you have kids, you walk through school and that parent knows you and you don't have a clue who they are? You always feel like you're almost indebted to them because they remember something about you and you were important enough to them, but they weren't important enough to you. So you feel guilty. I love a call like that. When I have intimate notes about you and I recap that, man, I've just kind of emotionally kind of blackmailed you into taking a quote from me because you're like, dang.
And your value goes up too. Like the way I value you, I'm like, I value that guy. Wow, he's in tune. He's with it,
It is huge rapport. So always create an intimate note and give yourself the opportunity to pick up where you left off and raise your status in a call big time, especially when you're recapping something personal.
Yeah, there's this 40 some $40 million Allstate agent that used to be up in the Northeast for decades, and it always blew my mind. We wouldn't talk for 6 months. I'd chat with him, and he would call my kid's name by their name how is their soccer going? I'm like, what? But my value for that individual, all-time high.
Right.
That's massive. That's huge.
Right. When you show them that you're more important than just the sale. And I'm telling you, people have to like you, they have to trust you, and then they buy from you. It's, that's the way it goes. And if you cannot pick that back up on a call, then you have to start from the cold call. Why in the heck would you invest 45 minutes to an hour into somebody so that a week or two or months later, you're right back to where you started and you're cold calling them again?
Mm-hmm.
So your pipeline, your X dates, what you call, what you write is all based on the effort that you put in up front. And you either make your mind up that you're not going to get a return on that time putting that note in, or you are. You have to make your mind up. And you have to visualize that sale 6 months down the road and say, I'm going to get them then. And you have to be excited to make that note and give yourself the opportunity. So you have to be able to see past tomorrow, right? And the numbers will tell me that you can visualize that opportunity in the future when you're making outbound calls, when you're giving me good notes in your CRM, when you're giving me, all of the effort, and you're organizing it. When you show me you have an organized pipeline and that you care about the future of that opportunity that I just spent $150, $250 getting you, then I see a team player. When somebody is failing on the metrics, when somebody has a very low talk time or a very low quote volume, there's always a story behind it. I used to get so offended. I really did. I used to feel like they were doing this just to slap me in the face. All this effort I was putting into you, and you can't give me a few calls today. You can't give me a few quotes today. You can't put a dang note in Lead Manager today. How offensive is that? You're slapping, you are disrespecting me. That is the wrong confrontation that you want to take, or the wrong mindset you want to take to any leadership opportunity where you have a way or opportunity to lead somebody.
This was just a role play and I felt very uncomfortable. So yeah, I'm like, what?
So it's very tough. It's very tough to not take things personally. Mm-hmm. There's a story behind every number. So with my sales manager on my team, I ask her, when I see a metric, it doesn't even make my heart skip. I think no thoughts. I've trained my brain, no thoughts. Something that could be presenting itself, and there's a story behind it. The only thing is, hey, Andy was a little low on quotes today. What's the story? Mm-hmm. And typically, they come back and say, yeah, Andy's power went out for 5 hours today, and he sent me a picture and showed me everything was out. And that's what happened today. Oh. But if I had fired off at you, Andy, what the heck, dude? Mm-hmm. Why are your quotes so low today? You would immediately think, first of all, that I've made my mind up about you. Mm-hmm. You would be offended. I will have planted a seed so that now I think negatively about you, and therefore you perceive me as someone that's against you instead of for you.
And I'm paranoid and I'm worried and now I'm stressing out.
And every time a metric doesn't meet it, you have these preconceived ideas and thoughts that I am looking to fire you. So you're operating out of fear.
See, and that's where people say like the leader drives that, right? But then it's really easy as a leader, not really a leader, but it's easy as a boss, an owner, right? To be like, play the blame game, and they're lazy, they're not on point, they're paranoid, they're hiding from me. It's like, no, you created that. You created that situation. I love this is the first time we've ever talked with anybody about this. And I think this is happening all over the place.
Oh, yeah. We are so, as leaders, a lot of times we are self-serving. We are serving an emotion that we're having, and then we act on that. Mm-hmm. We are literally acting on that. We're trying to validate our emotions and our own insecurities by coming down hard on people without understanding the story first. And it's just our natural reaction. And we feel like that's what we should do as leaders because that's what leaders did to us. And then we're just mirroring that. Mm-hmm. Man, to do that without understanding what that person is going through. Now, listen, there's easy conversation when somebody is consistently going through something and they can't help support the business, and therefore this business can't. That's fine. You're not a good fit anymore. I get that, but it's not against me. That's not against me. I'm here. I got a ton of good friends at home. I just, and I consider all the employees that I work with are friends, but I got a lot of free friends at home, and they're all free. So when it's no longer ability to serve the agency and make it to where the agency can grow, and it's no longer a good fit, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't mean I have to hate you. Doesn't mean that I have to blame you for, the failures. It doesn't mean I have to do anything. It just came to a point where it's just not a good fit. So I have role played that in my head where I can meet confrontation at any given time in a way in which they don't feel threatened. They feel like they can still come back to me, and you can just stay ahead of where you see them going because of the numbers. The numbers say they're doing this. You can help guide them. And at the same time to say, hey, the expectations are spelled out in all of our contracts. And I don't have to threaten anybody with a contract. They know the contract. They know the deal. The deal's always the deal. But I'm not going to get offended because you can't meet your end of the bargain ever. I'm not going to take it personal. You have something personally going on that is a higher priority than what you do with us for 8 hours a day. That's it. And right now, that situation in your life just isn't a good fit. There's a lot of people that we've hired that other agencies had to let go of because of something personally they had going on and a struggle they had going on at that time. They clean that up, and then they're able to come back 10 times stronger. Just hired someone yesterday like that. And they're already crushing it. Seriously, they came right on and adopted our process, and we're like, holy cow.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's usually a kid or a child or some kind of outside force that you never know. People sometimes can't set boundaries for distractions and those that want to take from them in their life. So always go in and try to find out the story, because if you are a good leader and you understand how to navigate life, you are the best asset that they have, and to lead them through that and help them. People don't always need role play on how to sell. Sometimes they need role play on how to manage their life so that they can sell.
Hey,
does that make sense? So there's more to it than just the agency. But don't think that all because my empathy, my kindness is a weakness. It's not. It's not. The deal is still the deal. We're always managing to the deal. That's it. But you don't have to be a jerk, and you don't have to be condescending, and you don't have to be self-serving to your own emotions in that process. It's still going to end up with the same result. They're either going to leave or get fired, but your kindness and your empathy and your coaching and inspiration and helping them understand their life, right? So that they can set boundaries, so they can be better at work. All of that can happen, and to the point where the deal is no longer the deal. So you can be kind. There's a way, there's a duality there that I never used to know. I never used to know. And I never understood. And if I was going to address it, it was me addressing my emotions by pouring them out on you, and you had to shoulder them. And that was awful. That was awful leadership. So, that honestly, the metrics have meaning, but they always have a story behind them. And if somebody for example, I had a great agent doing amazing things all the way up until last month, and we have a minimum 35 items you got to write.
Okay.
In that, I just said, hey, what's the game plan? How are you doing? And he gave me his game plan, and I gave him some subtle guidance. Say, hey, I get it. We're waiting on those big households to close. Let's assume they're not coming. What's the game plan now? And he created it. And at the very last day, he knew if he did not get to 35 items, if he was at 34 items, we parted ways, and it was not a good fit, unfortunately. And I would help him find other opportunities. But there was no threatening. There's no, Ryan's got me, supporting me until the deal is no longer the deal.
Absolutely.
He got over 35 items the last day, but he wasn't working out of fear. He really wasn't. He wants to be a part of the team, and he knows his part of the deal has to be made up and has to be achieved in order to move forward. There's no confrontation there. It's just expectations. That's it. And black and white expectations we have. That's it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And expectations and consequences and all this, like, it goes back to the fact that people want accountability in their business, but if you don't even set the expectation in the first place, you don't have anything to correct. One of the things I want to get into before we sort of wrap, and how people can connect with you and some of the different tools and resources available, was something we were talking about yesterday, which was kind of the rituals, the routines, either the daily, weekly, monthly huddles, the structure, the meat of how you actually kind of keep everybody on the same page. Do you mind just for maybe 1 or 2 minutes kind of walking agencies through logistically how they can put in maybe a more succinct structure for like keeping the team in communication, staying on target, and like what would a given day, week, or month look like in terms of like recurring meetings that you feel like are absolutely necessary to keep your culture glued together?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you this: ambiguity, gray area is the enemy of scaling, our enemy of profitability, and enemy of success. So it always, and I'm going to take it even one step, it comes to the job offer. The job offer is the black and white. If you do not set the precedence, you have failed. Then it's all ambiguous. I heard plenty of people that left an agency where it was just pure ambiguity. It was conversational. Nothing was in writing. A job offer has to be the most important thing that you do. So once you set that job offer and you set that precedence, and the metrics are in my job offer of exactly what they have to do, and they signed it and they know it. I don't ever have to revisit it. I can remind them every now and then, but I don't have to revisit it. Everything from there in our agency handbook explains the job offer, details the expectations, sets the standard for ethics, morals, values in our agency, what we do, what we based termination on, all of that. So anytime there's a question, I just go back to the job offer and I go back to the handbook. I don't have to re-explain. I can just take snips of it and say, hey, we signed this. This is the deal. Anything I can help you with, but understand that this is the deal that we signed on. 35 items. Now it's 40 items. This is where we're at. How can I help you get to this? So once you set the deal up the right way, now you have a foundation with which to set a process around. Okay. So the process is always supporting the deal, the contract. Okay. So accountability. What does accountability look like? I built the Humble 100. The Humble 100. That's a great plug, right? The Humble100.net. It's not .com. The Humble100.net. It is the data analytics that puts out. I build out their goals for the day. For the month. That breaks them down by day. We can operate by points, to items, or premium. I love premium. Why? Because I get paid by premium. I get paid in dollars, right? So I help people visualize that, and then we convert that into items and so forth. So that is right in front of them every day. When they're in the red on activity, it shows up because if you're in the red here, you better be in green somewhere else, making up for that. So it shows that, breaks it down. That is a big step in our motivation. We just built out an incredible commission plan that shows their trending. So this is what you're going to make if you keep this up, kind of thing. That is really awesome. So that helps in our daily goals. How do my Wednesday morning meetings go in structure? They are inspirational. They are discovering. They are always about the struggles and the internal struggles and vulnerability. You want to be seen as a vulnerable but strong leader that understands themselves. And if you understand yourself, that you can have the power to understand other people, because they had the same struggles as you. So that's what our Wednesday mornings look like, all motivational and highlighting the data in the weeks. We track on the service side, number of Google reviews that mention their names. We track the number of referred items to the sales team, and what was written. The Humble tracks that. And then we also track the number of inbound calls, number of outbound calls, and the number of, with Allstate, the number of e-agent notes, which is our little internal CRM, how many notes we take, all of those metrics, and then how many life referrals we have and so forth. So we track all that and we highlight them. We celebrate them. We get everybody to talk. In every meeting, we try to get everybody to state something. Last meeting was, please tell me your goal today and why it's your goal. You can't have a goal and no why behind it. So we went over things like that. So I create every meeting in a PowerPoint. So I have a list of I'm on 79 that I wrote out. So I write out all my meetings. I prepare for them, right? Because I created a culture that I want to show up for. But I prepare for them and I deliver those. I meet with my sales manager, and that's where it's impulsive. My sales manager impulsive throughout the day, because leading indicators, metrics show me something that might be of concern. And I'm always asking the story behind it. And if she doesn't know the story, then she finds it. So I'm always constantly meeting with her. And my operations manager, I meet with every Thursday morning, which is 10 a.m. And we have an hour of just connecting and going over the things. And then he randomly hits me up several times a day, text or so forth. But that's how I stay connected with them. But as far as, we're all remote, Andy, we're all remote.
100%. Wow.
100%. We have, agent that goes into the locations, but we're all remote. And
we might have to have you back on to talk about the remote game, because I know there's still a lot of agencies trying to figure that out.
We have an insane. If I could jump in the room right now, they'd all be in there. A lot of them just quoting and working, but they're in there voluntarily, and they're having a blast. Agency culture is huge. We have the best agency culture, and we're all remote. And I haven't even met 15 of my agents. I've never even personally met them.
Wow.
And we're connected. So it's huge. So if you ever want to have a culture and you ever want to have a process, it starts with the contract. And if you don't have a contract, you can always rehire your agents. Always rehire your team with a contract. If you have ambiguity and you have gray area and you don't have something to find and you always have to address it, and you find yourself always having to address it, go to contract. If you don't have one, write one. All because they're hired today doesn't mean you can't rehire them for tomorrow. And that's with a contract. So make sure you have that, and then be disciplined to go back to contract on any situation that you have, and let the deal be the deal. And that's non-confrontational. That's non-confrontational. Have friction up front. And I'm telling you, you'll enjoy your culture that you've created.
Ryan, this has been amazing, truly. And I'm super grateful that you have such a deep understanding of leadership, and also just a lot of self-awareness as well. I think, probably you've impacted a lot of lives today, and then anybody watching the rerun as well. How, before we wrap up here, can other owners, entrepreneurs get involved with you, whether it be the Humble 100 or any other programs that you have, or just connecting with you and building, you into their network and vice versa? What are some of the best ways for people to reach out to you, so I can drop it in the comments here?
Everybody, you can message me on Facebook. That's probably the best way. Instagram or Facebook is the best way to get a hold of me. Do I do anything to help agents coach? No. I'm really focused on the businesses that help support agencies' marketing plan. But I will be coming out. I just recorded my first. It's called Agency Ownership from Start to Scale. And so we'll be creating that on a YouTube channel and all podcasts across all channels as well. So I'll be going over all this and step by step and how I do it. And all you got to do is subscribe, but I haven't launched it yet. It's just being recorded and edited.
It's exciting. Yeah, please share that over as well, and we can get that out to the audience afterwards as well. But this has been awesome. I wish we had 5 hours together. I know you've got teams to run and agencies to scale and all that, but honestly, this has been amazing. One thing I wish we had a little bit more time for is to dive into the life of a runner and endurance training, which maybe we'll save for next time. But I just want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank our audience for taking part in today, whether you're watching live or you're on the rerun. And Ryan, man, keep crushing it. Really, really appreciate you. You're a huge inspiration. And thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, Andy.
Absolutely. And that wraps another episode of Ask the Expert. So if you're with us here live or you're watching the rerun, we come to you every single Thursday at the same place and the same time here in the Insurance Syndicate group. And very, very grateful again for Ryan's time. And join us next week where we have another amazing expert coming in. And next week, we're going to be diving into the world of marketing and lead generation and some other topics with a leader in that space. So thank you guys again for your time. Have an amazing day, and we will see you next week.